Cavell House, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. February 16, 1873. Dear Aunt Eva, I do hope that this letter finds you happy and healthy. I'm sure you want to know about the party. My, what an evening! What an evening it was! It was so emotional for me. I pray that I can remember every detail, every word. I shall truly try. There were more people than I could ever have imagined. I'm sure I won't remember most of them. Colleagues from James's work, many past business associates of James's father, friends from their church, they are Episcopalian, and a variety of society folks that amazed me by their number. Mother Cavell had hired additional help for the evening. It was so busy. Even the talented Mr. Willis was engaged to help with guests' wraps and hats. James and I remained in the east parlor for much of the early evening. Mother Cavell insisted that this was proper to remain stationary until most of the guests had arrived and had the opportunity to offer their good wishes. I was so pleased when they had all arrived. I just needed to move around. I think it was also a little difficult for James, making his injured leg a bit stiff from not getting about. Once we left the parlor, I began to receive such wonderful compliments on my emerald dress. James was so proud, and Mother Cavell smiled at each compliment as if she had chosen the dress herself. I have come to have an affection for her that has surprised me. She seems so much more defenseless and vulnerable than I might have predicted before I began to know her. Although she portends a hard soul from her withheld demeanor, she seems to me such a fragile creature behind this face that I cannot but have real sympathy for her. I cannot imagine her pain or fear, but it must run deep, for it is always just behind her stoic nature. The food was delicious, and the excellent music was provided by a string quintet. They played quietly during the evening until it was time for the dancing. But first, there were introductions and the toasts. Mother Cavell began by once more welcoming all of the guests into her home and introducing Aunt Sina as the official hostess for the evening. Aunt Sina welcomed all and did not forget you in her remarks.
I am not your only official hostess this evening. I am simply your only official hostess that is present. Anne's dear Aunt Eva is also your official hostess for the evening, only she was unable to be with us here due to her illness. The children decided to allow their aunts to have a part in what is surely to be a blessed and special union. So when I welcome you this evening, I do so on behalf of Eva and myself, the aunts that couldn't love these children more if they were our own. We know Eva is with us here in spirit, and you will find her here if you try the bread pudding, for it is her creation. Her presence is sorely missed, and while she is recuperating in Marietta, we must send her our own best wishes and prayers. So I ask each of you to join me and raise your glass of punch, your cup of tea, or your glass of wine to Eva. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. May it not be long before we know your presence, dear sister.
I couldn't help the tears. She was so generous. She truly loves you, and yet she has not even met you save through the eyes of James. It was he who told her of your delightful bread pudding. He had asked for the recipe from me secretly last month during his visit. I only now know why. Is he not the sweetest man alive? Next to speak was Mr. Edward Tenlinger, James's good friend from Cincinnati.
My name is Edward Tenlinger. I have come from Cincinnati to be here with my good friend James. He is a man I did not know 1 year ago, but even so, he is now one of my closest friends. We met as colleagues during his stay in Cincinnati this year past, thanks to the good Mr. Deisher here, and when he left our town, we parted as brothers. I have enjoyed our work together and our fellowship. He is the older brother I never had. I used to tease him that he may have been the better engineer and more clever than I, but that it was obvious I was the more handsome of the two of us. Today he has proven me wrong, for today I have met his fiancée, this beauty he calls Anne, and I know that I was wrong yet again, for her beauty takes my breath away. So, my friends, I am humbled by his request that I, a simple-minded, dog-faced chap, should be his best man. My dear James, I shall be with you whenever and wherever you need me. I shall stand by you and your beautiful bride, and when all is said and done, I shall go home alone and cry my heart out, for I shall never be so fortunate as my clever, handsome brother James. To James and Anne.
We laughed and cried at the same time. It seems that Mr. Tendlinger always has this effect on those around him. I watched them embrace, and we all applauded and cheered their friendship. Mr. Tendlinger gave James a small box, and he smiled broadly. James turned to me, and then looked at the guests and spoke.
It seems to say I am the luckiest man alive is to state the obvious. I am not sure how I came to deserve the goodness and blessings of my dear mother and aunt. They have been quite wonderful to Anne and I. They did all of this evening, and we thank them most sincerely. And Edward, I could not love a brother more, dear friend. And all of you who have come here this evening to join us in celebrating what will be the highlight of my life, thank you. Thank you very much.
And then he stopped. It became very quiet. James turned to me. He was trembling a little. It frightened me for a moment. He spoke in a quiet voice.
I have never seen anyone more beautiful than you. I've never known a woman more ingenious than you. I've never known anyone with a heart more true. I love you more than I could have ever known possible.
He opened the box to reveal the most beautiful emerald ring. I was astounded, and he knelt down before me.
I have asked you before, and now I ask you again. Will you be my wife?
I cried. Right in front of all those people, I cried like a child. But of course, I said yes. And I embraced him and kissed him right there in front of all of those guests. I never felt so unfettered by propriety. I never cared so little for etiquette and deportment. I think I loved him more at that moment than I had ever imagined. I can't find the words to express my feelings. But you know James, so you must know what I felt. He is the sweetest man alive. All the guests cheered, and the musicians played music, and we danced alone, just the two of us, with all folks watching and smiling. And when the song was over, Mr. Tendlinger came to James to ask for the next dance, and he invited all to dance with us, and many did. I think I shall like that friend of James's very much. We have agreed to keep the June wedding date as pre-planned, and all attending were reminded of the date. I should think it may be a larger wedding than I might have imagined. I know there is so much more to tell, but I shall save some for when I return. It was nearly a perfect evening. Save one thing. You were not there. All my love, your niece, Anne. P.S. Be well. I shall be home soon.